Here, Ian, hold it up.
It is a hunting photo. Men on horseback chasing a stag. Dogs below the horses. All hunting in the scene.
It's the dogs, the hounds, that inspired me to tell an actual medieval tale. This is not mine, my version, but there is a legend coming from Wales many centuries ago called Beth Gelert. So I was inspired to think of this one. It seems that many centuries ago, the king gave his son, whose name was Llewellyn, a hound, a puppy. It was a very special hound and talented. And he trained this dog to be one of the best hunting hounds in all of Wales. And that was one of the things he most liked to do. The prince loved to go hunting with his friends. And the dog Gelert became known far and wide. And as the years passed, his father, that it was time for him to marry. So eventually Llewellyn said yes, he would. But he married this lovely lady, and he was very much in love once he decided he wanted to be married. And they had a little son. Now they used the dog Gelert to sometimes interact with the child, and he was very protective of him. But one day they wanted to go hunting, but there'd been a fair in town, and many of the help had gone. So the keep was left without many people. And although they knew that the Gelert was the best dog to lead the hunt, they thought they'd use the lesser hounds. And he told the dog, "Stay, guard." And Gelert's tail between his legs, but he obediently went into the area where the child was in this big crib. And they went on the hunt, and as you might have guessed, it was not a very successful hunt because they did not have Gelert with them. So when they returned, blowing their horns and coming in, they saw the dog coming out of the keep. And he was not bounding as he normally would. And they looked, there was blood all over its muzzle. And the men were saying, "My Lord, what is it?" So they rushed into the keep and looked. And there in the room where the baby had been, the cradle was overturned. There was things on the floor. There wasn't much furniture, but what was had been overturned, and a lot of cloth on the floor. And they were astounded. And some of the men said, "My Lord, the baby." And they looked at Gelert, and he had the blood was almost dripping. And he looked, and Llewellyn took out his sword, and in reaction to a loving father, said, "Oh, you ungrateful hound!" and stabbed Gelert. And as the dog was dying, he looked up with eyes that said, "But why? I just did my duty." And about that time, one of his men said, "Oh, my Lord, look!" And they turned over, the cradle was upended, and there was the baby holding on to the fur of this gigantic dead wolf. And they put the idea together. The wolf had come in to the rather unguarded keep, and Gelert had fought him for the life of the child. Well, Llewellyn was just devastated. He was so glad his son was safe, because baby boys are very special. But he had killed his friend, his hound that he had raised from a pup. And he felt so bad that he went out on the Wales Mountain, and he took stones and he built a cart. And it's become known from then on as the grave of Gelert, or Beth Gelert. And it's there today too.